Hi, welcome to Bible study. I'm glad you're joining me, and we're going to continue to go through the book of Joshua. There's some fun stuff in Joshua, and it kicks off today. We're going into chapter 2 of Joshua, and I think we've got some fun stuff because the hero isn't Joshua in this story, it's a woman, and an unlikely hero at that. Joshua chapter 2, and we're just going to slowly work our way through it. So find a Bible, read along with me. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove to spy secretly, saying, "Go, view the land, especially Jericho." So this is significant, and I'm stopping here just because, do you remember what Joshua's role was several books back, like in the book of Numbers? He was one of 12 spies, and they had spied out the whole land of Canaan. 2 believed God could give them the victory, Caleb and Joshua. 10 did not, and we don't remember their names. And an entire generation believed the 10 and died in the wilderness over 40 years, whereas only Joshua and Caleb survived to see the promised land. And this is it. They're about to enter the promised land. But Joshua sends 2 spies. And it seems like it's kind of secretly, not just secretive from the Canaanites, but secretive from all of Israel as well. He sends these 2 spies. I suspect that he didn't really trust everything to go smoothly after his prior experience, right? But he tells them to go to Jericho. So let's see what happens. So they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." So they've gone into Jericho. They're getting, checking out what's the walls like, what is the fortifications, how many troops are here. And when you need a place to hide, well, apparently they chose the house of the harlot. You may wonder why they would have done that, but there weren't like Motel 6s or Holiday Inns in that time. And inns often involved some unsavory business as well, especially in Jericho, apparently. And as a small town, even though that was their place to hide, it didn't work. People noticed the 2 strangers, and the soldiers and the king are now looking for those 2 strangers. They're Israelites. They're here to spy out the country. So verse 3, so the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who've come to you, who've entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country." So they tracked them down. They went to Rahab's house. "Rahab, bring them out." Where are they? Oh, this is a tough spot because they're there. What is she going to do? Will she ally herself with her own people, her own city? Will she have allegiance to her king and turn over the spies? What's going to happen? I like how he's building up the tension. Now, verse 4 has the word "then" in it, but it's not actually there in the Hebrew. So let's just jump in and say, "The woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, 'Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. And it happened as the gate was being shut when it was dark that the men went out. Where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them.'" So she tells a lie. She's like, "Oh, they were here, but I had no idea they were Israelites," or, wow. They slipped out. They went through the gate. Hurry, maybe you can still catch them. And so she watches them run off. They took her at her word, which is kind of a good thing, right? And so verse 6 tells us, "But she had brought them up to the roof, hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. Then the men pursued them by the road to the Jordan, to the fords. As soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. And so the men are trapped in a city, but still alive. Rahab protected them. She'd hidden them, and she sent the soldiers the other direction. Why would she do that? That's very interesting, because she's a Canaanite. Why would she turn on her own people? She must have loyalties deeper than to her country. Verse 8. Now before they lay down, which means this is before the soldiers came looking and knocking at her door, when the two Israelite spies first came, she hid them and had this conversation. So you see, they've kind of set up the tension here. Now they're going to let us in on the secret of what happened before the soldiers got there. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven, above and on earth beneath. Now therefore, I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Can you imagine? So they just come in here because they're hoping it's a good place to hide. You know, she doesn't ask a lot of questions. Might have been a little odd, the situation, but she takes them up, hides them on the roof, and has this conversation with them. I know who you are, and I know who you represent. I know that the God of Israel, the Lord Yahweh, Jehovah, has already given you all of the land of Canaan, and we're in the way. We are terrified of the Lord God and of you, his people. Why are they terrified? Rumor has it that your God 40 years ago parted the Red Sea, and you walked across on dry ground, and then he drowned an entire army in the water. We heard because the neighbors next door across the Jordan River were annihilated by you. And those kings and those armies were more ferocious than we are. Sihon and Og was a giant. He had not just one city under him, he had multiple cities. And the same with Sihon. These are the big bads, and they've already been destroyed by you. We don't have a chance. And as soon as we heard these things, so we've heard that much. They probably heard more than this, but that's enough, right? Our hearts melted. We had no courage. In fact, it took the wind out of our sails. We're powerless before you. Because of you, for the Lord your God. We're afraid of your God. He is the big God. He's God in heaven and over everything in heaven, and he is God on earth and God over everything on earth. He's the big God. Therefore, I beg of you, swear an oath, swear a covenant with me by the Lord your God. I've shown you loving kindness. Now show me loving kindness and give me a token of faithfulness that you will spare me and my family, deliver us from certain death. Wow. This is kind of a big deal. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. What choice do the spies have, right? Well, let's weigh through this here. The Lord said not to make covenants with them, but wow, this isn't like just making a little peace treaty thing. This is total surrender to the Lord. 2, their lives are on the line. She's the only thing between them and certain death. And 3, how does she know all this about our God? And she's claiming him. She's more faithful to the Lord than some of the Israelites were just a few days ago. Because, the end of Numbers there is kind of a mess. And so she has them hidden. There's soldiers looking for them. And she says these things. And suddenly you see there's a bigger thing going on here. It's not just about 2 spies doing their job for Joshua. Suddenly we realize God is on a mission to save people who are trusting in him. And so when she told the lie earlier, we see now that's why she's doing it. She wants to be on God's side. She wants to have her and her family spared certain death by the mercy of the Lord. She's changed allegiance. She's jumping on, you could say she's a bandwagoner. She's jumping on the bandwagon of the one true God. Well, do you blame her? So let's see what the men say. Verse 14. So the men answered her, our lives for yours. If none of you tell this business of ours, it shall be when the Lord has given us the land that we will deal kindly and truly with you. And I want to bring this out because it's in the Hebrew and you could read it and miss it. One is, okay, there it is. They told her, well, if you keep the secret, we'll deal kindly with you because the Lord is going to give us the land. And now we know that. We can see it. But in that deal kindly and truly with you, those are 2 of the characteristics God gave back in Exodus 34, that he is abounding in loving kindness and faithfulness. It's those 2 words. And this is profound because they are not only representatives as eyes and ears of the children of Israel, they're also speaking the words of the true God, in that they are to be ambassadors of his loving kindness and his faithfulness. So she says, since I've shown you loving kindness, now give me faithfulness in a token, in a proof. And so they say, our lives are with yours. If you keep this business of ours secret, if you don't turn us in to the authorities, when the Lord has given us the land, we will show loving kindness. We will show faithfulness with you. So then she sends off the pursuers, and they go off heading for the Jordan River, looking for these guys. The gates are closed, so how are they going to get out of Jericho? They can't hide there forever. Verse 15. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall, and dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, get to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you. Hide there 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Afterward, you may go your way. So she gives them instructions how to not even get caught between here and the Israelite camp. She says, go the opposite direction, up in the mountains, hide there until the pursuers will just spend 3 days looking for you. And by that time, they'll be back in Jericho. You can slip around the city and get across the river, not get caught. Because there's only so many ways to get across the Jordan River when it's at flood stage, which we find out in chapter 3 that it is. So this is how they're going to get away. So now that it's all made clear, now it's time to make the promise, right? So here's the promise from them to her. She's done her part. It's now for them to do their part. Verse 17. So the men said to her, we will be blameless of this oath of yours, which you have made us swear. And I'm going to pause for a second here again, because it's the second time we've come across this swear, this covenant. Because a lot of your commentators, I've been through all my study Bibles that I have at the house here, and they all spend a lot of time agonizing over Rahab's lie. I want you to see that there's actually an interesting irony to that. One is, well, if you've got someone trying to hunt you down and kill you, don't go hide at that theologian's house, because they're just going to say, oh, sorry, I can't lie. They're behind the couch. Better go find someone who's better at lying than they are. But the reality is notice that there's a lot about speaking the truth as well. She's speaking the truth to them, and they are to speak the truth to her, and to be people of their word. That these promises count for something. And we shouldn't miss that. That is very important in this story, is this promise making, to be people of their word. And so we will be blameless of this oath of yours, which you have made us swear, unless when we come into the land, you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father, your mother, your brothers, all your father's household to your own home. So it shall be that whoever goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood shall be on his own head, and we will be guiltless. And whoever is with you in the house, his blood shall be on our head if a hand is laid on him. And if you tell this business of ours, then we will be free from your oath, which you made us swear. So this is the conditions of their oath. Don't tell anyone about this business, about us being spies. Don't get us killed. And 2, your house is the place of safety. And your house is to be marked by this scarlet thread. And that's pretty interesting, because it's a change in words. What they're going to go down the wall from her window with is a rope in the Hebrew. But this word, this line, this is a word that's normally translated as hope. And that's going to be an important role here in a minute. But this is the physical token of their truth. It is a token for her and a token for them. A token for her to see, this is the promise, this is the house. This is where safety is. So when she tells her family, you've got to be in my house when the attackers are outside the gates, this is the proof. This is our token. And likewise, for the soldiers to see this token, this little scarlet thread's probably an understatement, but this token of hope. These people are putting their faith in the one true God, that he will be faithful to them to keep them safe when the destruction comes. Everyone outside of the doors, their blood is on their own head. But those that are in the house, And this is significant. Remember, we've heard this before. The token was blood on the doorposts, right? And death would be outside. But those who were in the house marked by the blood, they would be safe. So verse 21, she says, according to your words, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed. And she bound the scarlet cord, the scarlet hope, in the window. That was the proof of her faith, her hope in God. It was just a physical symbol of a spiritual reality. And now verse 22, we'll go ahead and finish the story. They departed and went to the mountain and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers returned. The pursuers sought them all along the way, but did not find them. So the 2 men returned, descended from the mountain, and crossed over, and they came to Joshua the son of Nun and told him all that had befallen them. Can you imagine the story they were telling? You wouldn't believe what happened. The Canaanites are terrified of us. And the weirdest thing is, there's one of them who's decided to be one of us. Verse 24, and they said to Joshua, truly the Lord has delivered all the land into our hands. For indeed, all the inhabitants of the country are faint-hearted because of us. And so now we wait. You have Rahab, the Gentile woman who works as a harlot, a prostitute, who has cast her lot, who has placed her hope and faith in the God of the Israelites, in his loving kindness and his faithfulness. That is such a big deal that it stays a big deal. So I hope you pulled out a Bible, because this is kind of cool. Spoiler alert, but it's kind of cool. In Matthew chapter 1. In Matthew chapter 1, there's a long genealogy, but there's some interesting names that show up in there. And in one of them, a guy by the name of Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David the king. In the family line of David are 2 Gentile women. One of them is of sterling reputation. The other one, not as much. But she was a woman of faith. Faith in the God of loving kindness and hope in his faithfulness. So much so that that's not the only time we hear about Rahab. We're going to hear about Rahab 2 more times. And I want to show you one more of them. And I'll let you find the other. Because James, as he is teaching about faith without works is dead, after he's gone on for a while talking about Abraham as the friend of God, in James chapter 2, verse 24, you see then that a man is justified by works, not by faith only. Likewise, was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Set as an example of faith, she trusted God, and she was rescued from the wrath to come. And so we can take hope in the same God she put hope in. That her life was transformed that day when those 2 spies showed up at her door. And she realized, this is my chance to trust in the one true God. This is my chance to become one of the people of God. I'm not missing out on this. I pray that you don't miss out on that either. trust in him today to forgive all of our sins, all of our reputation, all of our shame, all of it washed white by the blood of the Lamb. God bless, God keep you. See you next time.